Hello and welcome to the 15th episode of the Meet the Entrepreneur podcast. This is ARTEEN ZAHIRI, and I am the host of this feature along with RUMEER KESHWANI. Today we are speaking with Boyede Sobitan, co-founder and CEO of OjaExpress. OjaExpress is a digital marketplace for ethnic and cultural groceries. So Boyede, we'll just kick it off. Maybe for our audience, if you can tell us a bit about your background and what part of your upbringing led you to start OjaExpress.
Yeah, I mean, I think you all kind of kicked it off when you mentioned like children of immigrants. So same thing, children of Nigerian immigrants here in Chicago, grew up in Uptown. And like per every immigrant society, you want to be a doctor, lawyer, engineer, or a failure. I think those are kind of like the categories we have. So I went the healthcare route. So I actually started my career as a ICU nurse at a pretty busy hospital here in Chicago. A couple of years later, I got my master's in healthcare administration. And then from there, I just been working in administration, and I worked in consulting, worked in clinical operations, did a lot of different things in healthcare. I think I've done everything in healthcare aside from pharma and insurance. And through that process and through that kind of going in, like just kind of trying to climb the corporate ladder in healthcare, I noticed there was a problem. The problem primarily being what immigrants finding their cultural groceries. Like if I want to go find my cultural grocery store, the last place you'll tell me to go is to the local store and go to the international aisle, which is, as many people know, is very limited. Just doesn't have what a lot of cultural communities would consider like their food. I like to joke that the international aisle is more than soy sauce and salsa. So what we're left with is like, we know in our community the stores to go to get the good stuff or the real stuff. And oftentimes they're not really conveniently located. Oftentimes the service is not always great. Oftentimes the presentation is not always, you're not getting the Kroger's or experience when you go to these stores. So I would I was consulting at the time. I'll fly back in. I only had like a day or two in Chicago before I had to go get back on the road and fly back out to where I got to fly to. My mom will ask me like, hey, would you go to the African grocery store with me? And I'm like, Mom, I only got so many hours in town before I gotta head out on a red eye flight back to my consulting site. Like that's the last thing I wanted to do. But per every immigrant mom, she's gonna win that battle 10 out of 10 times. So we'll go. And I had the thought there's got to be another way for us to do this. There got to be some kind of delivery mechanism, something happening. And at the time, there wasn't any. No one was doing it or doing it at scale, and the stores didn't really embrace technology. And that's kind of where the idea for OjaExpress was kind of sparked. The idea for OjaExpress was kind of solidified talking to my friend who happened to be a doctor and his wife. They were using another company, a delivery company for their staple grocery like bread, milk, all that other stuff. But she just had a baby, I think, maybe. So she has two kids under the age of 2. And she has to leave out postpartum to go and get like these cultural groceries that matter to her because they won't deliver it. And that's when there got to be an app for this. So I went in, looked at it, and there was none. And oftentimes in a lot of our communities, immigrant or any other underrepresented community, we oftentimes wait for other people to solve our problems. So this was a time where let's try to do something. And got my co-founder Fola Dada, and we then started going to work on building OjaExpress.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing the story there. And this would have been huge for me as a college student. So I grew up in the Bay Area, San Francisco. Parents immigrated from Iran, and fortunately there was some Persian markets around where I lived. And California is a super diverse state, obviously. Yep. When I went to college in Babson, which is in Wellesley, Massachusetts, it's like a super country club style suburb of Boston. There was nothing of the sort. So I had completely no access to any of the kind of home cooking that I was used to or anything of the sort. So having something like this would have been really beneficial.
But even at the end, even in Northern California, the Bay Area, a lot of those stores that serve those communities aren't really digitized.
Exactly.
So even if you did, even though we have them, we know they're here, but they are like these last, I don't want to call them relics for lack of a better term, that have not really embraced digital technology.
Old school.
Exactly. Super old school.
Yeah.
So would you say that a part of this is you're helping, like the end user like get access to the groceries that they need when they want it, but you're also helping the store owners on board to a delivery marketplace where you could help drive, more business for them.
Exactly. It helps everybody. So when we help the stores, we help the community, right? Because we know food is the last vestige of culture that's shed, right? So, and we know people rely on that. That's something that, regardless of where we're from, I think I was reading some anthropology article that we change the way we talk, the way we dress, and the way we socialize. But food, that's something that's carried. The food tells cultural stories. So in doing so, you're right, Ramir. Like when we help the stores and help them digitize and help them create a digital avenue for distribution, by extension, we're automatically helping the communities that rely on those products.
And what's the adoption been like? You know, you've been doing this for a number of years now. When you engage with these local store owners, trying to get them onto a platform like this, how have those conversations been going, and what kind of traction are you seeing there?
So yeah, so it's been up and down. We with COVID, it's kind of people thought like, yo, your business will blow up, and we did see some lift with that. But what we also don't, what we didn't anticipate was a lot of the store owners had a lot of either family members or immigrants as well working in those stores, and a lot of those people were getting sick. So it really, really inhibited the store's capacity to even onboard because they didn't have enough staff to make this work. So we're now we're getting our game plan together as far as looking at to get more stores on board. The reception is a lot better. I think what we see a lot of success is when we see store owners that are going to be passing the store on to their like younger generation, either like daughter or son or nephew. We see the adoption like a lot higher as opposed to when someone doesn't have any type of exit plan or any type of succession plan with that store. Now you're dealing with an older person who might even just have a flip phone for that matter. And no knock on flip phones. I mean, if you still have a flip phone, no knock on that. But we know there's not a lot you can do with a flip phone versus like some of the smartphones we have out here now. So
For sure, for sure. And another question I had is maybe if you could talk a bit about like what the logistics of the delivery look like. I know there's a couple different models, of course. There's like, how DoorDash and Uber Eats crowdsource drivers, but then there's also some where you have the store provide their own in-house drivers. What does that look like for OjaExpress?
So what we do is we literally take care of all the digital aspects of integration for the stores. So once they come on board, they can start delivery right away. We built delivery partnerships with a DoorDash, for example, or with a Burkup and other places. So they don't have a delivery network. They just tap into what we have now, and they can start delivering right away. So we think that our whole thought process around groceries, foods, and delivery is to be asset light. And I know you see a lot of what we're seeing a lot of now is we're seeing a lot of like rapid grocery delivery where you have to hold on to the inventory, and due to the niche we're working within, we don't think that's a viable model. So like we want to make sure we enable the stores and make the stores nodes so they can then do it that way if they want to. And they already have the leasing space. They lease the space already. They have the staff. So we just give them the technology, which is the secret sauce, and let them do what they do.
Can you talk to us a little bit more about how like you like met your co-founder and how you two kind of decided that this was a problem you guys wanted to address, and OjaExpress was the answer.
Yeah. So my co-founder and we were both in a mastermind group together here in Chicago. He's a nomad in every sense of the word. Like I didn't even know that his stint in Chicago was going to be a brief stint. He then moved to Arizona, to the Bay Area. Now he's in Miami. So I'm like, golly, dude. Like, as long as he has a computer, he can work. So we met, and through our journey, he also is Nigerian as well. So he also experienced the problem. So he already knew the problem because, like, oh yeah, that is true. I had to go through that. Or if I do go to the store, which if it's close by, the lines to get meat is so long, or like the smell, and like they don't got two registers, like 40 people in here. Like it's not a very experience that people like love, but the food that you want, and it could be just a snack, it could be biscuits, it could be whatever. You just want it, like what I'm saying. You can't get it. So I think we were both aligned on like the problem. We were both in the so we had exposure. both align on problem, and then through this journey, like with any other relationship, you go through the growing pains, right? You know, if you see us, we're literally like, when I say yin and yang, almost to the T. Like things that get me excited, he's chill about, vice versa. So you know, you go through the growing pains, and then you get to a point where you start to kind of level, okay, this is where we are, and they kind of grow from there. So that's kind of how been our relationship. So we've been working together on this for a number of years. But I like to call him my brother in the bond. With growing OjaExpress and really making you know, cultural groceries a thing, not just a fad, but a real utility in American society.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Boyede, I know recently I saw OjaExpress was accepted into the Techstars Kansas City Accelerator, correct?
Yep.
Maybe you could tell us about, you know, that's a huge accomplishment. First off, congratulations, huge milestone.
It.
Maybe you could tell us how that experience was.
Yeah, so no, I like to call like 2020 our when we got real. So up until that point, OjaExpress had been like a passion project, right? We got to Techstars, and shout out to Lisa Mitchell, the managing director of Techstars Kansas City. You know, a lot of times we think about investment, sometimes we think about just money. And then there are people who really pour into you as like an individual. That they, you know, some people that talk to you and they make you feel you can run through a wall. And when we talked to Lisa Mitchell about this, when we got in, she understood the problem. She saw so many different data points. She saw the immigrant community growing across the country. She knew that there's a lot of underrepresented founders within these communities that don't have access. She understands the issue of regular food deserts and how it's even more exacerbated if you're not from the U.S. You know, eat standard, you know, mainstream groceries. So that experience was great. And then we had a great cohort, a lot of diverse companies that we just kind of like leaned on each other. And it was during the pandemic too. So we did all that during it, and Lisa kind of kept us together. So we definitely attribute and shout out to Techstars overall, but also Techstars Kansas City and Lisa for really, really like getting behind us with the belief and then getting behind us with the check.
No, that's it's really good that you know, you got a lot of value out of working with Techstars, so it's good to hear that. You mentioned that through COVID, like you noticed that you know, the grocery store owners were hit you know, harder, and that was something that you didn't really anticipate. Have you identified any other problems that your vendors are going through that you think OjaExpress could kind of like expand into and like help solve?
Yeah. Where do I start? I'll give you three. I'll give you three. One, so inventory management is shitty across the board. Can I curse? Can I don't know if I have the.
Yeah, we're not on the radio wave, so
Okay,
you're all
good.
good.
It's shitty across the board. Like even Walmart, I mean, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry in and of itself. So imagine like stores that are under resourced that don't have tools to understand their inventory. So like literally, I talked to one store and I asked them like, "How do you know when you're out of supplies?" That usually customers tell us. That's a horrible user experience. I just drove 40 minutes across town for the product, and you had to wait for me to drive 40 minutes to tell you were out. Nah, you should know that ahead of time. So that's one. We have inventory management capabilities within our platform. I think two, also trying to make the store smarter. And what do I mean by that? Like, you know, some of the stores have like they still do paper POs. They get you know, mom and pop, you know, suppliers to bring stuff in and sign off on paper. They have no record management. The mom and pop doesn't know how their the supplier doesn't know how their products are doing in the store. There's so much a vacuum of data that's not being like brought together. So we built out a new tool called Vanika that's pretty much a supplier and distributor portal, which they can like distributors and suppliers of stores can manage and see how their products are doing in the store. So we know that, then we know how much of any given product is supposed to be in the store. So we check that with how many scans going on in the store, how many sales they've done online. We should kind of give them an approximate, very, very close, significant increase in like, okay, what do you have in your store available? And I think the last thing, I think we kind of touched on it a little bit, is like, you know, the great resignation and employment issue, right? So I talked to one store and he's like, you know what? Like, I got all the square footage, I got all the employees, but like, if I just like shut the door and just ran my whole like thing through your platform, I can reduce the number of employees. Now, I don't say this for that as a riff. I'm saying that now that gives stores flexibility, right? As opposed to you only have one staffing model, you have different staffing models that can right fit your your economic model for your store. So I think those are the three things that we found that people that we didn't think of that we now say as a utility. One, like it gives the flexibility in labor and staffing, especially with the Great Resignation. So if you only got one person in, shut the door, run everything through OjaExpress, and then you all just pack and ship out. Two, information from your suppliers, knowing like communicating with suppliers, and also finding other suppliers. A lot of these stores have like one supplier for this particular product that they brought in from overseas, and that might be 7 or 10. So when that one supplier is out, you can like go to the other ones to kind of get that product, so you don't have too many out of stocks. And I think 3, inventory management, inventory knowledge of the products you have on your shelf and it's going out of your door.
Thank you so much for sharing. That was like very, very well appropriate to the pain points that small business owners are experiencing today. So I think the value prop is just like flying off, really, really resonating. So great to hear you guys are innovating around those particular areas. And one question I had is, I'm sure, especially right now, but even in normal economic times, these store owners don't have the highest like margins, right?
Mm-hmm.
So very cost sensitive. I'm curious how you've structured like a revenue monetization model, and then how do you get store owners comfortable with that given financial hardships and already small margins?
Well, a couple of things. One, we see with the immigrant grocery stores or cultural grocery store, the margins are a little bit higher because they're imported. They have a supply advantage. Like there's only so many places you can get this spice from, or there's only so many places. I mean, if you're Muslim, there's only so many halal butchers in any given geo area if you want to remain halal. So they have a little bit of flexibility. But I think what we do is we kind of make sure that our monthly fee for the stores is less than or about the same amount of their phone bill. So the store pays us $99 a month to be on our platform, to be listed on our platform. That's it. $99 a month. And then from a cost model, we charge them a service fee. We charge them we run the transaction through our system, so we give them a little bit of transaction fee, and that's it. So the more customers we get, from a margin standpoint, the store doesn't take any, like they don't take a hit. There's no commission that they have to worry about. So that we kind of modeled it, and it took some time to get there because again, immigrants, and I can say this because I'm one as well, we grow very frugal, right? Like if that thing's $1 and somebody else across town has it for like 98 cents, we'll drive over, even though that 2 cents are by walking out automatically. It's already, we've already like incurred that cost, but it's just that feeling that I feel like I got a deal. So had to really kind of tap into that as far as understanding how a lot of these store owners who are old school, baby boomers, maybe some Gen Xers might think through finances. So yeah.
Yep. And I know immigrants love to negotiate as well. So I'm sure you're really
exactly.
into that as you're going through your sales cycles there.
Yep.
No, that's really funny. And it makes a lot of sense. So yeah, it's like it's just what comes with the market, I guess.
Yep.
Like what other differences do you see like in terms of how, I mean, OjaExpress was founded in 2015, right?
So we started in 2015 again as a passion project. We were formally incorporated around 2020 when we got to
Okay, got it.
nature. So when we started to really like put like real like product strategy, finance, like like real hardcore engineering into it. So that's kind of like we like to kind of use that as our demarcation point. So
Got it.
was learning.
That's when the experimentation started, was in 2015.
Yeah, exactly.
No, yeah, so I mean, regardless, so like you've obviously spent a lot of time like thinking about this and you've seen how it's changed. Um, what are some nuances of like working in like the grocery market and like doing like a double-sided marketplace that you feel are like difficult to tackle?
I mean, I think you nailed it. It's a two-sided market, right? Who do you go after first? Like, if you don't have any customers, grocery store not really want to be on a platform. You don't got supplies. Customers don't really want to come. Like, so who do you tackle first? And there's always a chicken and egg conversation. And depending on who you ask, it's going to be a different conversation. And I think another added nuance to what we're doing is the fact that we're doing this in a very multicultural way, meaning that you can find African grocery stores, Indian grocery stores, halal grocery stores, Asian grocery stores, and all these cultures. How do you build a marketplace where people engage with your product and they feel culturally seen. I know we talk about Web3 a lot. I think one thing that's often left out of Web3 is culture. Like how is that like brought forward? How is that embraced? And how is it maintained? So I think those aspects of it. So you don't want to go to our site, for example. No shout out to everybody. You know, we like to call ourselves the United Nations of Groceries at your fingertips. But like, if you're going to my site and then you say I want to look for Indian groceries, and you see like white people, you're like, is this really? Do they really know? You know what I'm saying? So you want to. So one of the things we want to make sure from a brand standpoint that we're very culture forward, and we lead with that. So we say, hey, I want to shop for Indian groceries. When you go to the Indian grocery page, you see things that remind you and feel as much as you can digitally of Indian or South Asian style cuisine. If you say, hey, I want to find African and Caribbean groceries, you should see images of people and products that reflect those people. So I think definitely the marketplace dynamics that come into it, but then also ensuring that the information about the foods is accurate. So you're not seeing as like culturally appropriating. The feel of the product feels a way where people feel trust and feel like, yo, they get it. They know what they're talking about. So I think that's the other layer of complexity that we kind of, I guess, sign up for by going about it the way we are.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Definitely want to get the customers to feel like you have the credibility there and can understand where they're coming from. No, perfect. Boyede, it's been a great conversation so far. Kind of with our last few minutes here, I was curious. So currently, OjaExpress is operational in Chicago, correct? Is there any other regions?
Yeah, we're looking at regions. We're hopefully in the Q2 we'll be raising another round.
Awesome.
We just did a small, I like to call it a small undisclosed pre-seed round last year. So we should be raising another round, hopefully in the coming quarters this year at least. And there we're also looking at other hubs like Houston, the DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia area are places that are on our horizon. Also, like looking at Detroit, looking at places like Indianapolis. They might seem like quote unquote secondary or second tier cities, but you'd be surprised at the amount and the concentration of diversity, especially when you think about Detroit and the proximity to Dearborn, Michigan, and the high Muslim population in that area. So in part, in doing this as a startup, you kind of learn a lot of anthropology of where the immigrant travel patterns and where the communities are to make sure you're serving people in those communities.
Yeah, and I feel like also when you're going to these cities, like you're also kind of betting on like their own city's future growth.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of these cities are like now like faster growing. Like you see like people from California and New York kind of like in 2021 they had the most people leave that state.
Mm-hmm.
And you saw states like Texas and Florida were the top two that picked up the most,
Yep.
So you're gonna see like I feel like those trends are gonna continue to happen, and like we're gonna see the rise of like new states and new cities will come up and kind of like have new things to offer and will attract Americans in a new type of way. So I think like that's like a really important trend.
And I think to that end, right? I think we're also talking about and expanding the definition of what it means to be an American, right? Like, can you be, 100% Persian, 100% American? I think it's possible, right? I could be 100% Nigerian and 100% American at the same time, and also, but in doing so, should that exclude me from my access to my culture, from whatever culture it might be? I might want a hamburger today and jollof rice tomorrow. Why should I have to choose? So that's kind of the underlying hypothesis, the assumption that we're challenging as a company, that with the increase in diversity of the U.S. and all the trends, we look at census trends, we look at Migration Policy Institute trends, we look at Pew Research trends to follow where the migratory pattern is seen, where we can serve people the best, and also not only serve people, but it also this has an economic component. How do you then allow people more access to economic abilities to do something? We get calls all the time from countries, from companies overseas that have a new candy. They're trying to get footway into the U.S. What does that do to the people in those factories or the people who are like shareholders of startups in those countries that are trying to get foothold in the U.S. Now they have a channel now that they probably didn't have before.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So, but it sounds like, this year coming up soon, you're hoping to raise another round, some plans for further geographic expansion. Is there any kind of major goals or milestones you want to hit in 2022?
I think that's it. I think one, make sure that we have like our product is solid, like flawless. I mean, of course, tech stuff happens, but as seamless as possible product. Also, just expanding our team, and so we can serve more people and serve more geographies, and that's pretty much.
What's your current headcount?
So right now, talking about like non-contractors, like W-2s, 4.
Okay.
So 4. But like in doing so, we did that very intentionally. We didn't. We thought about like the next round. Learn this time, go round, then build the next round.
What about including your contractors, your 1099s?
Well, 1099s, we're about 10.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Or most of the 1099 are those the drivers or?
No, they're agencies. They're agencies, marketing, our PR. Like
Are the drivers managed by the grocery stores?
DoorDash.
Oh, okay, got it.
We have delivery partners, so we don't.
Makes
Again,
sense.
our whole model is to make sure that we're asset light. So we don't have that. So, but as we grow, we want to build up our own network alongside of having other delivery networks in our portfolio and our mix.
Yeah, I like the model a lot. It's very lean, asset light, like you said, and sustainable. You can scale without at this point using a lot of resources. Makes a lot of sense.
Exactly.
Perfect. Well, great. Maybe last minute here. How about we could leave it off if you could tell our audience how they can find OjaExpress, use the platform, find the groceries they love, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so you can find us on almost all social media channels at OjaExpress, OjaExpress, all one word. So engage with us, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all those platforms. You have family members in Chicago, like tell them to shop OjaExpress. Also, if you have recommendation of stores, we're still trying to build up more stores on our platform. If you have stores that you feel it could be that you feel as if they should be on the platform, that they have great products, or you have suppliers who are looking to connect with stores, tell them to email me directly, Sobitan, BSOBITAN @OjaExpress.com, and we'll love to have that conversation.